Wrestling has more than one royal family.
Best podcast going around worldwide. Kick it to Scoops, and I am Cooper. Hello everyone and welcome to Kick It to Scoops. I'm your host Cooper Gretsch, the sole admin of AFL information, trade rumours and results. I'm back. I told you this is the week back. You would have seen the new intro. Leave your thoughts down below on the new intro. I thought I'd change it up. For a few weeks off, I thought I'd change the intro as well. So let me know your thoughts down below of the new intro. We've got a big show loaded for you guys today, including the world famous segment Scoops Goes Bang. That always happens every single episode. My team of the week for round 8. I'm going to review round 8 and preview round 9. Now, I'm going to go through the Scoops medal now. Obviously, I've been off for a few weeks. I have not posted the Scoops medal votes on my Facebook page intentionally. So I'm going to go through 3 rounds of Scoop medal votes for round 6, 7, and the round just gone round 8. I'm going to go through some Supercoach talk. I'm still in the top 1%, and we're technically back in the top 1%, so that's great to see. We'll go through that. And my final thoughts. So while I'm at it, you want me on Cameo, head to cameo.com/CooperG and merch. There's plenty of merch on the site. There's multiple amount of t-shirts. The Scoops Live t-shirt, Scoops is bringing you a block t-shirt, the whole lot Kick It Scoops, the original t-shirt, plenty more. There's hats, stickers, and stubby holders and hoodies on there as well. So go and get yours today. Now let's start off with the world famous segment, Scoops Goes Bang. Boom. Have a few weeks off to start with a bang. Well, there's nothing so much that I could mention that would go very explosive, but just the consistency of umpiring, the new stand rule, which has been obviously been through the whole year. Moving off the line. The part I don't like about the umpiring when they say you have to stand is if you move off the mark, but you move backwards, I don't see the problem there. You're not interfering with the person having the set shot or whatever. If you move to the side and stuff, that's a little bit understandable. When you move backwards, it's not really impacting the kicker at all. Seriously is something they need to fix. And it's interesting. But anyway, and now another thing I'm going to go through is Cameron Ling. He's now got his new podcast. And he's had a few opinionated things since Kane Corns mentioned about him and Jack Ginnivan. Anyway, now Cameron Ling's just come out today on his podcast and said, this is a reference to Essendon beating Hawthorn this week, just gone. He said, and I quote, "Miracle at Marvel. Did I miss something? A few blokes pulled out before the game of the flu, and they beat a team who won 3 games of the year. Someone needs to explain to me why this is a win for the ages." Well, I'm actually not disagreeing with that in terms of the part where he says a win for the ages. Yes, they had 5 out. Yes, they came from behind and are winning by 27 points. No one's disputing that. But it was Hawthorn. And the players are out. Yes, there was 5 players out. I'm not disputing that. That was factually correct. But the 5 that are out, outside of Jordan Ridley, the other 4 are not regular 22. So, yeah, I partially agree with Lingy. But, win for the ages is definitely not a win for the ages. So if you think it is, well, you can think that. But that's not what I think. Now, we'll move on. Hope you guys enjoy that. I've Scoops Week. Very light edition of it. Just a light one this week. A light one. Now, we'll move on to my round 8 AFL team of the week. Now, from the back line, the pockets, Will Powell and Sam Doherty. Fullback, Sam Taylor. The half-back line, Dane Zorko and Jordan Dawson. Centre half-back, Patrick McCartan. The wingers, Hugh McCluggage and Ed Langdon. Centreman, Andy Brayshaw from Freo. The half-forward line, the flankers, Charlie Curnow and Jeremy Finlayson. Centre half-forward, Tom Lynch. Forward pockets, Charlie Cameron and Tyson Stengel. And the full-forward, Peter Wright, 2-metre Peter. The ruckman, Sean Darcy. Followers, Will Brodie and Patrick Cripps. The interchange, Jared Witts, Rory Laird, Travis Boak and Jackson McRae. 2 emergencies only this week, Jeremy Cameron and Hayden Young. Now leave your thoughts down below of my round 8 AFL team of the week. I've seen to go through recently that Jared Witts had dominant first 3 weeks or so, along with another ruckman has rotated with him the last few weeks. And I mean, Witts' stats, if you look at it, having around the 20 possession marks, around the 40 hit-outs, and being the clear dominant ruckman on the ground in his game, deserves a spot on the team. And as does Sean Darcy, who was very dominant on Todd Goldstein and got just under 20 possessions himself. So, pretty self-explanatory there. For any other players, Hugh McCluggage hit 4 on the wing. He had over 21 possessions as well. Jordan Dawson, albeit them losing, he was very dominant, and his stats prove that. Dane Zorko seems to be mixing between the half-back line, the midfield and forward at the moment, showing his versatility. Will Powell did a good lockdown role. Sam Taylor, albeit Gita Reskin smashed, did a good job on Tom Hawkins, only kicked 1. Andy Brayshaw's in all Australian form, as is Tom Lynch now. He's starting to pick some goals up the last few games, albeit against West Coast and Collingwood. Still in some solid form. And Patrick Cripps will be a contender for the Brownlows so far. If it wasn't evident already, it is certainly now. Travis Boak and Jackson McRae on the bench, you'd say they could hope be on the ground. They could be, but Will Brodie, Cripps, and Andy Brayshaw were the ones in their positions. Now, we'll move on. So leave your thoughts down below of my AFL team of the week. The next thing on the agenda that we'll go through, in fact, is none other than reviewing the round just gone, round 8. Now, all the way back on Friday night, we had the Power 86 defeated the Bulldogs 69, 17-point victory to the Power, 3 in a row for the Power, just a win and percentage outside the 8. Some people wrote the Power off being 0-5. I mean, most would. at any team in that position. But the Power, I thought, well, they got some better games coming up, and then they got North Melbourne now next week, which we'll go through that later. So they could be winning 4 in a row and be in the 8 potentially, or just a percentage out of the 8 by the end of round 9. So no, I never wrote off the Power, and had a good win again in the Bulldogs. McRae, Bogue, Finlayson. There were some of the major players for that game. Now, also on Friday, the 2 double headers. The second one, Freo hosting the Roos. Easy 78-point victory for Freo. North Melbourne to Dreadful, 102-24. Brody, Brayshaw, Darcy. A lot of good plays for the Dockers and even contributors for North Melbourne. Todd Goldstein got beaten in the ruck by Darcy pretty dominantly. There was nothing to be proud about it for the Roos. So pretty easy for the Dockers, who gave them the old heave-ho. The Dockers won, and now we move on to the Saturday game, starting off with Richmond hosting the Pies, and they had a good 27-point victory, convincing in the end, 113-86. Darcy Cameron had to shoulder the ruck, obviously with Brody Grundy out for the next 2 months or so, or around that mark still. So he faced Nan Kerbis and Soldo. 113-86 here. Tom Lynch kicking 6 and having over 20 possessions. Dominant performance on him on Darcy Moore. They're pretty convincing. They really looked like they were losing. Collingwood tried to come back, but never could get over the line in the end. The other game on Saturday, early game, was an upset in a way. 75 for the Gold Coast Suns, defeated the Swans 61 by 14 points. Great win for the Suns. Jared Witts was awesome. David Swallow, Will Powell. A lot of players did well for the Suns. Paddy McCutcheon was probably the Swans' best player, but I wouldn't really call this an upset purely because 3 times the Swans have been pretty average in some of their performances. They came back after trailing against Hawthorn in Tassie and North Melbourne in Sydney. And I thought, well, that's Hawthorn and that's North Melbourne. They were behind against the Lions. They tried coming back. They could not get over Brisbane because obviously Brisbane's the dominant side. And I just thought Gold Coast, albeit they've been losing a lot this year, they haven't really, outside of maybe one game against GWS, they haven't really been smashed badly. So I thought they do that to the Suns as well. They may not get over the top end. Now, they got a bit closer than they have in the previous games, but like the one against Brisbane. But the Suns, to their credit, held on. Levi Casbourne and Marby Oldchild were very quiet for the first 3 quarters. Those two in the last quarter stepped up when they needed them. As I said, the few plays earlier, Swallow, Witts and Will Powell all did very well throughout the game, but those two in the end stood up when they needed. Iso Rankin, likewise, in the last course. A good win for the Suns, who are up and about now after that win against the Swans, who like playing the SCG, apparently. Now, Twilight game out in Canberra. Giants 35 defeated pretty easily by Geelong 88, 53 points. GWS, well, you'd be pretty disappointed. They had a close loss against Kilda a few weeks ago, had a win last week, and then had a big win actually last week against the Crows in Adelaide, and then dished out that, they were pretty disappointed in Leon Cameron and the crew. Cameron kicked 5 for Geelong, Stengel kicked 3 and had 20. Duncan had around 35, Bleak Subs had around 25 and played in the ruck as well, so pretty disappointing for the Giants there. The game's on Saturday night. As expected, the Lions smashed the Eagles by 75 points, 105-30 in wet conditions. To West Coast's credit, they were in the game. Well, when I say they were in the game early, they weren't. The margin wasn't as big. Wet conditions, they kicked. I think they were only down by 3 goals in the first quarter. I think Charlie Cameron kicked 4. Dan McStay went off injury, got subbed off. We'll miss a little bit. Joe Danaher's still out for a few months with a shoulder injury. So Eric Hidwood, hopefully they may say maybe back this week or next. They're considering whether they play him in the reserves or not, which I don't think they will, the way you get Chris Fagan is talking. For the Eagles now, they had a depth on one of the Waffle players, Jake Florenza, who, if you see all these debut videos and see how they call their parents or brothers or sisters or whatever, and you see that most of them get all excited, some swear in their videos, but this one was a very interesting one. If you haven't checked it out, this debut video for Jake Florenza telling his mum he's debuting, go out to the West Coast Eagles footy Facebook page and go check it out. It's a pretty interesting one. She basically was saying, oh, you're playing, no way, you're kidding me, all the generic stuff, but she essentially said she was not going to watch and to tell Jake, her son, to call her, in fact, after the game. Just go check it out, you know what I mean. And very different debut reaction video compared to most. Yeah, they were pretty disappointing. He had 19 on debut. He had 9 possessions in the first quarter, inside mid from the waffles. So he had a pretty decent debut. Scored over 100 Supercoach too. But yeah, that's where it ended for the Eagles. They were pretty poor. Liam Ryan kicked 3 of their 4 goals, but yeah, they were pretty disappointing as expected. And as the Lions, Neil, Zorko, McCluggage, the usual suspect. Darcy Fort's doing okay since joining Brisbane from Geelong as well, and had a record of consecutive goals in a row. We are missing, that is. Now, the Bombers, 108, defeated the Hawks, 81. Essendon by 27 points. Yeah, come from behind win. Good for them. As I said earlier with Ling, it was Hawthorn, but the comeback from behind was still good nonetheless. 27-point victory. Peter Wright, 2-metre Peter, kicked 6. Zach Merritt had a better game. Hawthorn O'Meara was probably their best. Yeah, that Hawthorn be disappointed. As you can see in the coach's box, Sam Mitchell was very annoyed in the last quarter for how his side had been performing. And considering they were around the 8, Hawthorn, they still are, but that win probably could have got them in the 8, or at least only percentage yet, if not in it. And they'd be disappointed very much. So Essendon get their second win of the season. Now, the 2 games on Sunday. Yes, I know you'll all be waiting for my thoughts on this. St Kilda v Melbourne. Melbourne 93, defeated the Saints 55. Melbourne by 38 points. Yes, it was disappointing. It's very scrappy first half. It was pretty much summed up by when Timmy Membry had a shot on the quarter-time siren. Yeah, from 15 metres out or so, it was touched on the mark on the siren. Score a goalless first quarter. Disappointing, and then the second quarter was not much better. Melbourne kicked consecutive goals. St Kilda came back. They changed some structural moves, which had to be done. But yeah, it wasn't to be for the Saints, unfortunately. Yeah, it was pretty disappointing. Jack Steele had an off game for his standards. Still had over 25 possessions, but wasn't his best game. Probably his worst game for a long time. Skipper Brad Crouch was probably St Kilda's best, but Andy Brayshaw, Ed Langdon. Oliver were probably Melbourne's best players as well. I didn't think Paddy Roddy did too bad. Gordon was okay without being outstanding. Yeah. Now, I did mention earlier about the umpiring. This game, again, did not impact the result. But the umpires have said throughout the whole season has been pretty poor, and this game was showing that, especially in the second half. Now, Carlton and the Crows, the final game of round 8. Carlton 116 defeated the Crows 68, 48-point victory. Charlie Curnow kicking 6 with 1 on the siren. Yeah, the Crows will be disappointed. They haven't been too bad this year. Since they had that win in the showdown after the sign from Jordan Dawson, they've been much better. But they were disappointing last week against the Giants at home, losing by over 50 points. And then 48 points to Carlton this week. 2 bad weeks in a row for the Crows. Maybe they're starting to tamper off again. Jordan Dawson was clearly their best player with Rory Laird. Carlton, you can raffle it up between Curnow and Cripps and Doherty and players like that. But, yeah, pretty good for Carlton. They're currently sitting 4th on the ladder. So, yeah, and they're a game clear of the sides below them on the 20 points, including St Kilda, Geelong, and the Swans. So, and then they're a game behind Freo and Brisbane and 2 behind Melbourne. So, they're in a decent position now, Carlton, with how they're going so far. Now, that is reviewing round 8. We'll now go preview round 9. And we'll start off with the game on Friday night. Marvel Stadium, Pies hosting the Bulldogs, 7:50. Very interesting game this will be. I think. Real toss of the coin. Bulldogs will lose a few players. Vandermeer, Cody Waitman. There's another one that escapes me who the other one was. This is the third one. Yeah, and they may regain English, Keith, and Bontempelli. So they get some of their better players back. I've been saying about their key defenders. Keith, if they don't have Keith, they're dreadful. Cordy and Gardner are certainly not the answer. And O'Brien's now injured. O'Brien was the other one that's injured. So they'll miss them 3 and they'll probably gain those 3. English, Bontempelli, and Keith. Collingwood disappointing against Richmond. Bulldogs disappointing against Power. Real toss of the coin. I'll go the Pies. On Saturday, we have a 1:40. That Pies, Dogs close to 7:50 Victorian time at Marvel. Game on Saturday, 1:45 Melbourne time at the MCG. The Hawks hosting Richmond. Yeah, this another interesting one. You think Richmond would win, but again, Hawthorn, if they hadn't choked the lead against Essendon, we could be saying a completely different story. This is real 50-50 as well. I'm tipping Richmond just. Now, the Roos are hosting Adelaide in Tassie. Set 2:10 Victorian time. I'm going to clearly go the Power to win 4 in a row and be breathing down the neck of Richmond, who are sitting 8th at the moment in the top 8. They won't be in the 8 because of the percentage, but they may be equal 8th by the end of the round, just percentage out of the 8. The Power. And the twilight game on Saturday, my Saints against Geelong, 4:35 at Marvel Stadium. You know who I'm going for, and I mean, there seem to be some interesting clashes between the two lately. Hoping it's obviously a victory for my side. It'd be nice, considering coming off 2 losses. Jack Billings should be back. Hunter Clark should be in as well, or maybe, but Jack Billings definitely will. Potentially losing Dan Butler for a week or 2. Disappointing. Go through an Achilles injury. Obviously I'm tipping the Saints, so we'll see how we go there. Hopefully can win and potentially be in the breathing down the necks of Carlton in 4th place, or at least equal, at least. Now, on Saturday night, we got the Swans hosting the Bombers, 7:25 Victorian time at the SCG. Sydney will win there. Adelaide hosting the Lions Saturday night, also 7:40 Victorian time at the Adelaide Oval. And that's another obvious one. We'll go the Brisbane Lions there. Now, on Sunday, 1:40 at Metricon Sunday. This is Victorian time, all these times I say. Suns hosting the Dockers at Metricon Sunday in Queensland. I'm tipping the Dockers, obviously, but Gold Coast, they did alright against Melbourne at home. So who's to say they can't do that to Freo? But I'm going the Dockers, though. The Giants hosting the Carlton, 3:20 at Giants Stadium on Sunday. I would tip Carlton, but again, Geos will want to perform better than what they did the last few weeks. Now, this is pretty obvious. 5:20 Victorian time at Optus Stadium in Perth. The Eagles hosting Melbourne. Don't need to waste my breath. Speaking about this game, we know Melbourne will win pretty comfortably. Now, let's go through now and leave your thoughts too down below of your tips for the round upcoming. And how your tipping is going. I'm pretty well on the tipping. On the Herald Sun Supercoach tipping. I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but it's in the 50s out of however many thousand people in there. So I'm going pretty well. I was actually 12th prior to this round. Got 5 out of 9 this week. So many 50-50 games this week. And some let me down. Looking at you, GWS. Anyway, now, you only go through Supercoach talk. Now, I'm in the top 1%. For the exact ranking I'm on 2,391. My score for this round was 2,334. I'm happy with that score. So far for the trades, now I haven't shown my team unless you've looked it up online. I've not obviously had an episode, so I made some changes obviously through those 2 to 3 week periods. So far for the round just gone, you'll see on my team attached on the screen above. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see this team. If you're not, I'll read it out to you if you're listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, which you can get my podcast on those platforms as well. Where are we? So I made one change so far. I've downgraded Hugh Dixon at Cooper Hamilton in the forward line. No, I didn't get him because his name's Cooper. There's a few Coopers in the AFL now. Murley at Collingwood, Stevens at Geelong, so no. That's not why. He's averaging 61. I needed to downgrade Dixon to look at some potential upgrades, so that was the clear one, and he was cheaper. So yeah, I'll go through my team if you're listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so you can't see it, so I'll read it. The backline consists of James Sicily, Jack Crisp, Jaden Shorter, just brought in this week, and Jack Sinclair, Nathan O'Driscoll, and Paddy McCartan. I got DeConing on the bench as well with Skinner, but DeConing and McCartan I kind of flip around. I may look to upgrade one of those 3 soon. The midfield consists of Neil, Oliver, Steele, McRae, Boak, Brayshaw, Green, and Nick Dacos. Connor McDonald on the bench with Mitch Owens and Brady Hoff. The ruckman. I kind of regretted this 2 weeks ago. 2 games ago, I brought in Riley O'Brien. Deciding between he and Witts. Witts had some scores prior to the Collingwood game a few weeks ago. They were having some big dominant scores around 130, 150 mark, but he had some scores around 70. So I thought, I'll go the consistent O'Brien scoring around consistent hundreds. And that came to backfire, and now I'm looking to try and get him out in a way. But do I prioritise other moves before doing that, or even bother doing that? Because I want to keep the money for upgrading someone, not moving him and then costing myself another 80,000 just to move him all around, which is something I'm pondering at the moment. So O'Brien and Bruce, Ruckman on the bench, Sam Hayes from Port Adelaide. The forward line, Heaney, Brodie, Canelio, Lipinski, Gresham, and Nick Martin. And then the bench, so they just brought in Cooper Hamilton, and Ned Long is there also. If you want any advice on your Supercoach team, you know what to do. Send it through on the Facebook Messenger at AFL Information, Trade Rumors and Results, or on Instagram at AFL Info Live. And subscribe to the YouTube channel, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts if you haven't already. This episode will be uploaded on Spotify and Apple Podcasts directly after airing live here on YouTube. Now, some moves I'm thinking about. Heaney, having some good scores and having some bad scores. I mean, there's no one else in that price that's worth trading. So, I mean, I've already got Brodie. Canelio's in a similar boat to Heaney, as is Polly Gresham. But in the forward line in Supercoach, there's no one worth wasting an upgrade for when they're going to score similar. So that's why I'm kind of sticking with Gresh, Cogs, and Heaney. Brodie's doing terrific. Lipinski's doing pretty solid, still averaging 94. The midfield pretty self-explanatory. I'm thinking about Tom Green, do I take him out? But again, no point upgrading when there's someone scoring similar price. Just because he's having a few lower scores than some previous weeks, you don't just jump and take him out just for the sake of it. And you also want to conservative with your trades, so we don't want to waste them. I currently got 21 left as of right now. This is one trade already done this week. Got 2 boosts left. I don't want to really use any of those 2 boosts. I want to kind of save them for the buy rounds, and maybe even then, to only use one in the buy rounds and have one later in the season, because you know if sides are conservative in the 8, they might start resting players, and I want to have a good ranking still for the rest of the season. Now, I didn't want to take George Short out, but in the end, I did last week and brought in James Short. Now, leave your thoughts on my Supercoach team and leave your opinions on what trades you want to make and all that. And any advice you want on your own, send them down below in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel and do it on the Facebook and Instagram, and I'll happily answer your questions on that. Now, it is time for the Scoops medal. Now, 3 rounds worth of votes. So bear with me. I plan to do the Scoops medal later in the year, not just the last round, because if there's a clear winner already, then it'll make it not pointless, but, you know, you're already predictable. So there will be at some point where I'll stop doing the weekly votes on the podcast and leave maybe the last 8 rounds or so, but for the time being, we'll worry about it right now. So I'm going to go all the way back from round 6, round 7, and round 8 of the Scoops medal. And I can reenact it like Gillen McLaughlin. So this is the Scoops medal for round 6. Round 6, GWS v St Kilda. St Kilda, Jay Steele, 1 vote. St Kilda, Jay Battle, 2 votes. St Kilda, Jay Higgins, 3 votes. Western Bulldogs v Adelaide. Adelaide, T Walker, 1 vote. Adelaide, R O'Brien, 2 votes. Adelaide, B Keys, 3 votes. Port Adelaide v West Coast. Port Adelaide, T Marshall, 1 vote. Port Adelaide, T Boak, 2 votes. Port Adelaide, J Finlayson, 3 votes. Fremantle v Carlton. Fremantle, Al Schultz, 1 vote. Carlton, G Hewitt, 2 votes. Carlton, P Cripps, 3 votes. North Melbourne v Geelong. Geelong, R Stanley, 1 vote. Geelong, T Hawkins, 2 votes. Geelong, J Cameron, 3 votes. Gold Coast v Brisbane. Gold Coast, D Swallow, 1 vote. Brisbane, J Lyons, 2 votes. Brisbane, Z Bailey, 3 votes. Melbourne v Richmond. Richmond, N Vlosten, 1 vote. Melbourne, E Langdon, 2 votes. Melbourne, C Oliver, 3 votes. Hawthorn v Sydney. Sydney, C Warner, 1 vote. Sydney, L Parker, 2 votes. Sydney, C Mills, 3 votes. Collingwood v Essendon. Collingwood, B Grundy, 1 vote. Essendon, D Parrish, 2 votes. Collingwood, J Ginnivan, 3 votes. Now, the leaderboard of the Scoops medal after round 6 consists of, on 9 votes, Christian Petrarca. In equal second on 10 votes, Paddy Cripps and Travis Boak. And the leader after round 6 on 11 is Ben Case from the Crows. Now, leave your thoughts of that round's votes down below. And now I'll go through round 7 of the Scoops Medal votes. Round 7, West Coast v Richmond. Richmond, J Short, 1 vote. Richmond, T Lynch, 2 votes. Richmond, S Bolton, 3 votes. Geelong v Fremantle. Fremantle, R Lob, 1 vote. Fremantle, B Akers, 2 votes. Geelong, T Stewart, 3 votes. Adelaide v GWS. GWS, T Green, 1 vote. GWS, I Cumming, 2 votes. GWS, Josh Kelly, 3 votes. Melbourne v Hawthorn. Melbourne, C Oliver, 1 vote. Hawthorn, D Moore, 2 votes. Melbourne, M Gorn, 3 votes. St Kilda v Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide, O Wines, 1 vote. St Kilda, J Steele, 2 votes. St Kilda, S Ross, 3 votes. Carlton v North Melbourne. Carlton, S Doherty, 1 vote. Carlton, H Mackay, 2 votes. Carlton, P Cripps, 3 votes. Collingwood v Gold Coast. Gold Coast, L Casbolt, 1 vote. Gold Coast, J Witts, 2 votes. Gold Coast, T Miller, 3 votes. Western Bulldogs v Essendon. Western Bulldogs, J Dunkley, 1 vote. Western Bulldogs, C Daniel, 2 votes. Essendon, Z Merritt, 3 votes. Sydney v Brisbane. Sydney, C Mills, 1 vote. Sydney, L Parker, 2 votes. Brisbane, L Neal, 3 votes. The leaderboard after round 7 of the Scoops Medal consists of an equal third on 10 votes. Travis Boak, Luke Parker, and Lockie Neal in second place on 11 votes. Ben Keys is the new leader after round 7 on 13 votes. Patrick Cripps. Now we'll move on to the most recent round of the Scoops Medal, round 8. Round 8, Port Adelaide v Western Bulldogs. Port Adelaide, J Finlayson, 1 vote. Western Bulldogs, J McRae, 2 votes. Port Adelaide, T Boak, 3 votes. Fremantle v North Melbourne. Fremantle, S Darcy, 1 vote. Fremantle, A Brayshaw, 2 votes. Fremantle, W Brody, 3 votes. Richmond v Collingwood. Collingwood, Peter Lipinski, 1 vote. Collingwood, J Crisp, 2 votes. Richmond, T Lynch, 3 votes. Sydney v Gold Coast. Sydney, P McCartan, 1 vote. Gold Coast, D Swallow, 2 votes. Gold Coast, J Witts, 3 votes. GWS v Geelong. Geelong, M Blixarbs, 1 vote. Geelong, T Stengel, 2 votes. Geelong, M Duncan, 3 votes. Brisbane v West Coast. Brisbane, C Cameron, 1 vote. Brisbane, D Zorko, 2 votes. Brisbane, H McCluggage, 3 votes. Essendon v Hawthorn. Hawthorn, J O'Meara, 1 vote. Essendon, D Parrish, 2 votes. Essendon, P Wright, 3 votes. Melbourne v St Kilda. Melbourne, C Oliver, 1 vote. Melbourne, A Brayshaw, 2 votes. Melbourne, E Langdon, 3 votes. Carlton v Adelaide. Adelaide, J Dawson, 1 vote. Carlton, P Cripps, 2 votes. Carlton, C Curnow, 3 votes. Now the leaderboard after round 8 of the Scoops Medal, in third place still on 11 votes is Ben Keys from the Crows. Second place on 13 votes is Travis Boak, and the current leader after round 8 of the Scoops Medal on 15 votes, a lead of 2 votes, Patrick Cripps. Leave your thoughts down below of this round's set of votes and the previous 2 rounds, and sound off your thoughts in the comment section down below. Getting close, and there's a lot of players too under the 11 votes. There's plenty on 10 and 9, so could see new contenders in the top 3 after the next set of rounds. Now, my final thoughts are simply this. You want me on Cameo, head to cameo.com/CooperG, and merch, as I said earlier. There's t-shirts, there's stickers, there's stubby holders, there's hats, there's hoodies on the site. The link is in the description of this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and watch this podcast every single week. and on the Facebook page, AFL Information, Trade Rumours and Results, and on Instagram at AFL Info Live. Thanks you all for tuning in to the return of Kick It to Scoops. Hope you enjoyed this show. Hope you enjoyed the new intro. Until next time, everyone, have a great one. The most important thing of all to remember is go the Saints and, of course, acknowledge me. To the